All right, so this is an introduction to using Celtx Screenwriting Software. Now, here's the thing. I'm kind of cheap, I guess, and Celtx has a free version and a subscription service. And I've been using the free version. The only problem is with the free version, you're limited to having 3 screenplays at a time. That's all you can have. If you do more than that, you have to delete one. That's what I've done here. You can see I've got 2 screenplays here, and that way I can make a new one for you for this demonstration. So I would recommend, I mean, of course you can always subscribe and pay for it. It's a great product, I think, but I recommend you start off by having the free subscription, and then you don't have to worry about that. So anyway, this is what it looks like when you first open up Celtx. It's pronounced Celtx. Now, what you do is this. You simply click on New Project, and then it asks you, well, what kind of project do you want? For example, there's a film. We're going to be using film and TV screenplays, but you can also, there's a different type of format that's for creating a video game, right? Because video games have their own scripts or screenplay type things themselves. There's also a multi-column audio-visual. This is more like a television show that's got graphics like a newscast or whatever. And also a regular old theatrical stage play has a slightly different format. So I'm going to click on Film and TV. This is what you'll want to do when you start as well. So click on Film and TV, give it a name, and I'm going to call it Project Example. You name it whatever you want to name it, and then click on Create Project. Now, when it first opens up, it's a little bit confusing because there's lots of little things going on here. Like it says screenplay, index cards, storyboard. Now, all we're doing for right now is the screenplay. Sometimes you can get involved in having little index cards made up of the different scenes on our storyboard, but we'll get into that kind of thing at another date. So I'm just going to click on screenplay, and then it's going to open up the blank screenplay ready to type. Now, notice something. It's already got this gray bar. That's what we call the scene heading. It's getting ready for you to decide, okay, first of all, and this is what you always have to start with, am I starting interior or exterior, right? Is the opening of my movie going to be inside or outside? So I'm going to just say int, and notice that it capitalizes it for you. It does everything you need right away. You don't have to think about whether it's capital or not, it just does it. And then I'm going to do a space, and I'm going to decide, okay, where is it going to be taking place? Let's say it's going to take place in a kitchen. And then finally, is it day or is it night? And I'm going to write day. So my screenplay starts in a kitchen, daytime, bam. Now I just hit return on the keyboard. Now watch what happens. When I hit return, it automatically jumps down, but it's no longer in this little grayed out area. So it knows, Celtx knows that we're no longer in the screen heading, but we're in the action, right? It even says it up here, action. So now I just describe what does the camera see as the scene is opening up. And I'm going to say, for example, I've got a couple characters. For example, one character is going to be named Mark. So now I'm going to make this in caps because it's the first time this character has appeared. Mark is sitting at the table, okay? Now, let's say I have more than one character there. For example, let's say we have Buffy, it's my second character, and I can capitalize it, is sitting across. So, from him, okay? And I might get into more detail there. Like normally you would describe a little bit more about what's happening so that whoever's reading your screenplay wants to get an image of what's going on. Like you might describe that, it's a messy kitchen, or that there's coffee pot brewing in the corner, whatever you need to kind of create the whole scene. I don't want to spend a lot of time writing it out in front of you here, but you get the idea. Describe the action. Now, okay, so I've typed something out here, and I'm finished with the description for now. So I want to go to the next thing that's going to happen. So I want to have Mark say something. So if I hit return once, it'll go down. But now, because I'm going to have a character say something, I just hit the tab key on my keyboard. Very important. Hit the tab key, and then notice it jumps right to the middle. Now, it also says up here, character. So it knows that it's going to format for a character about to say something. So all I have to do is type the name, and notice it capitalizes it for me. And then if I hit return on the keyboard, right, hit return, and notice that it jumps down to dialogue. It says dialogue here, and it's ready for me to write out the words. And notice that now it's indented over from the side, but it's not as far as it was when we had the action. So I might say, for example, I'm going to say, what's for breakfast, okay? And then I want to have Buffy respond, so I just have to hit return. And hey, it knows that I'm going to write another character. See, it's jumped to character again. And then I hit return again. And again, it knows that, well, since I typed a character, the character is going to say something. And I'm going to say eggs and bacon, okay? Now, let's say that's a short little conversation. I'm going to hit return again, and it's thinking, okay, you're probably going to have Mark say something again and go back and forth. But let's say I'm done with the conversation. I'm all done. So I hit return again, and it goes back to action, because normally you might have a little something. So, for example, Mark smiles and grabs his cup of coffee. Okay, now let's say I want to end my scene right there. Now this is incredibly short, but let's just say you want to end it. So I hit return again, but then I watch what happens. I hit return a second time, and boom, it jumps to scene 2. So let's say I'm going to do something totally different in scene 2. Like, for example, I want it to be outside, EXT, and then I type in where this is going to take place. So it's going to be porch, and it's going to be also daytime, right? So I've typed it in. We know that scene 2 is outside on the porch, and I hit return. It goes to action. I describe, what do I see? What's going on? I'm going to say, for example, cars. Let's say cars are moving quickly up the street, and then whatever else I need to describe to show what's going on, right? And then I'll say, for example, I could just continue the where I left off. Say, for example, I'm going to have, maybe I'll have a new character, for example. So I'll say, for example, James walks up, right? So I'll type his name in there, walks up to the porch. Now I want to have James say something, so I'll hit return, and then I'll hit the tab key, type the name James, and notice that it's also lined up the same way these other names were. I hit return, and I write what he's going to say. So what's going on, right? I type whatever he's going to say. And then now that we've got this, we can just continue with the entire screenplay, right? If all you have to do is keep track of, you're either going to be hitting return or tab, right? And you're going to go on. Now, sometimes you might make a mistake, right? You might make a mistake where you've tabbed at the wrong time or whatever. You can always change something. You can highlight something, and you can use the drop down here to switch it to character or whatever. If you've made a mistake, that's one way to fix things. That's one way to fix things. It's actually pretty easy to do. But that's essentially all you really have to know to get started. There are some other features to this. For example, there's a title page. At some point, you'll want to type in a title page, give it a name, and so forth, right? So at some point, when you're finished with this project, right, you will go to File, and you can download it as a PDF, and then you can send it to me or turn it into me that way. But essentially, you've got the basic idea here of how you're going to use Celtx. Just remember that you don't want to accidentally start subscribing to it, where you have to pay, enter a credit card number and pay. I think it's about $10 a month, depending. But as long as you keep under 3 or less screenplays going, you'll be fine, and you can actually keep the free version for quite a while. I've had this for probably 10, 15 years. So that essentially is like how you get started with Celtx.